No. Oh! Yo-ho! So today we're going to be going over my process for the latest Hu piece that I made. And as we just saw, I did pull for Hu and won 50-50. I also actually hit her again 20 pulls later, and yeah, that's definitely the most lucky I've ever been in Genshin Impact. But enough flexing, let's get into the process because it was quite the roller coaster. Now, planning is very important because it acts as the foundation of your piece. But in this case, the only thing I was really clear about was that I wanted to draw Hu. And I did have the urge to draw her in a more casual outfit, which in this case I did end up doing. But after going through Pinterest and seeing one of my old pins that I really liked, I decided to go with this pose. Now, first look at this pose, it's very edgy, it's very mysterious, kind of dark, which is kind of the feel I wanted to go for this Hu piece, even though, you know, her character is more of the playful type. But hey, this is just how I wanted to portray her. And I mean, she's a character that has to do with the dead, and the pose they were picking is pretty edgy, so of course, I wanted to go with a more goth style outfit. Now, recently I did draw Yuko Yurei in a goth outfit as well, but I wanted to have it a little bit more casual than that. Very similar to the reference pose, I wanted her to have a tank top or crop top of some sort, because I knew I wanted her to show her tummy. Why? Just because I like it. So now that we got the majority of her outfit down, I did decide to also change her hair, because, you know, I like different alternate hairstyles when it comes to drawing characters. And of course, I had to go with the shorter hair with the hair buns, just because we all know I like that. And I was also pretty set on making the eyes more mean looking and to stand out more. Very Jdotkdot-esque. You see, I usually do reference Jdotkdot when it comes to portraits, but in this case, I really wanted to hone in on the eyes just to emphasize the sort of, you know, mean edginess look that we're giving Hu here. Now that I got the base idea of where I'm going with this piece, I still need to add some details that kind of show that this is still Hu. So I ended up finding a plum blossom brush on the Clip Studio Paint asset store, and the first thing I thought of was, this has to be a tattoo. So I made the tattoo the reddish color that she has in her original design, and then put it on her shoulder, and I think it looks sick. And I don't put tattoos on many characters, but whenever I do, I like to sort of just airbrush it out to make it not look as defined. Because, you know, it's on skin and it's never supposed to be like super vibrant, I would say. And I do use a mesh transform tool as well to kind of morph the shape into the shoulder, like make it a little bit more round. And I don't add them till later, but I do add a few rings onto Hu fingers. And again, this goes back to poor planning because I chose this pose, and this pose obviously emphasizes the hands. But originally I was like, okay, why are they emphasizing the hands though? There's no really big significance here. But then I remembered that she has a bracelet as well as a lot of rings. And even though I didn't put all the rings on there just because I feel like there'd be way too much going on in that area, I think it makes enough sense to where you don't really second guess why she's doing that pose, you know? Another problem I had going into the piece was the fact that because I cropped it the way I did composition wise, it made it look like to where she had no pants on, which, you know, is perfectly fine. But in this case, it just looks weird because it just looks like I forgot to draw something down there. So I just opted for the sort of elastic hugging fishnets ordeal, and I think it looks pretty nice. And while I was browsing the Clip Studio Paint asset store, I did find this sort of border brush that I have seen before in other pieces that I just didn't know what it was called, so I didn't know what to look up. So thank God that I finally found it, because I think it's a super nice aesthetic. I think the title of the brush was like a Chinese brush or something. In this case, I think it fits perfectly. Now, looking at this piece currently, you would guess that, oh wow, he's almost done. But I decided to do a really bad thing and attempt to change my style as we're working on this piece. You see, in the last Draw With Me video, I noted that I wanted to have a more painterly style, and because I was doing this in quite the rush, I realized that, oh shoot, I've been autopiloting and just doing what I normally do instead of trying to do a more painterly style. Because I feel so lost when it comes to painting, I had to look up a few videos. So I stumbled across these two videos, and one of them particularly deals with hair, while the other one is just the process of the artist. But both helped me immensely when it came to the painting process because I was just so foreign to it. Especially when it came to hair, because thinking of hair in a three-dimensional way, especially in the anime style, is very difficult for me. But seeing this diagram really shed light on how I should be thinking whenever I do separate strands of hair. And it really resembles this artist, even though they don't do it in a very painterly way. The way they formulate and set down their hair is very similar, that I've always liked. But here you see me struggling with the hair, trying to find strands, trying to figure out where the bits and pieces are going. But I really do like the flow of painting because, for me at least, it's just a lot of like color picking, strokes, color picking, erasing. And this was actually the first time that I merged like 20 layers together and it was like, okay, I'm going to paint hair. I'm committed. And again, this isn't a bad thing to do if I wasn't, one, on a time crunch, and two, in the middle of drawing a piece. So tip here is to do your style studies, or just studies in general, separately from a final piece, yeah? But because I was so lost in this entire process to begin with, everything was just everywhere. And honestly, looking at it right now, it doesn't look that bad. I'm impressed with myself because this is the first time I've painted on one layer, and even though it looks a bit messy, they could use some more color differentiations. I'm still getting used to everything, but you know, not terrible. I also make the eyes pop a little more here, give it some more detail, and really bold them out. I took more inspiration from Hoki? I don't know how to pronounce their name, but along with their hair and as well as the eyes, I took a lot of inspiration from them, mixed it a lot with Jdotkdot, added the beads, added the rings, and I forgot to mention that the hands are probably the second thing on this piece I spent the most time on, right next to the hair. I just felt a lot more pressured because the hands were pretty much the main part of the piece, besides the eyes and face, of course. And what helped me was looking at Rolua and the way that they draw hands. And I don't emphasize hands a lot in my pieces, but I want to start trying to do it because people like Jdotkdot and Rolua do it a lot, and I just want to get better at hands in general, and I want them to look very aesthetically pleasing, because when hands are in portraits, I think it just enhances the portrait so much more. Now, when it comes to finishing touches, I thought I was pretty much done after I did the hair and added some accessories, until I realized, because I rendered out the hair so much, everywhere else looked plain. So now I thought I was done, but now I got to add more paint strokes and textures to everywhere else, or else it just looks unfinished in this case. And because it's the first time that I decided to like commit to painting the hair, this is the first time I ran into this problem. But yeah, here's me pretty much going back and adding more shadows and lighting to both the tank top and the skin. And I think it looks pretty good for the most part. The tank top is probably the weakest part, if you ask me, or possibly the abdominals as well. Usually you do a lot of smoothing when it comes to skin typically, especially in abdominal areas. I pretty much rely on the blur brush and the blend brush. But in this case, really finding the shapes to carve out the abdominals was very difficult for me, so it looks a bit odd. But again, this was dealt in a time crunch, and there's a lot of things I would change about this piece looking back at it. But overall, I think it does its job at portraying Hu Tao in a very edgy sort of goth manner. But yeah, this is the overall piece. Of course, final touches, I do go in and, add the multiply layer over the entire piece, and then go in with color dodge, go in with overlay to try to emphasize the lighting just a little bit more. But yeah, that will be about it. Today we pulled for Hu Tao and then drew her. Or in this case, painted her. A combination of both. This is easily the most experimental piece I've done in a very long time, so I wouldn't be surprised if in a day or two I just look at it and want to puke, but hey, that's all part of the process. Hope you enjoyed this process breakdown of this Hu Tao piece. Yeah, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in a week or two. See ya.